We've just spent 7 nights on board Ambassador Ambience, cruising around Northern Europe with stops in Copenhagen, Gothenburg and Oslo, and it was our very first time sailing with Ambassador. But it wasn't just any cruise, we were on board with the Queen of the Seas herself, Jane McDonald, which immediately made the whole thing feel extra special. Going into the cruise, we'd never sailed on an older ship before. Ambience isn't a shiny, new, modern ship. Built in 1991, she's 34 years old, and we honestly didn't know what to expect. Would we like it? Would it feel dated? Would it charm us? Or just feel tired?
For those of you that are new here, we are Travels with David
and Mark. We bring you along for weekly cruise and travel related videos.
And if you want to see the whole trip as it happened, we filmed the entire 7-day sailing so you can watch the full series afterwards. One of the first things that's immediately obvious is that Ambience is a smaller ship. Not the smallest by any means, but holding 1,400 guests across just under 800 cabins, she's the smallest ship we'd been on, and we actually really liked it. It felt more intimate, more personable, and you could actually get from one end to the other without feeling like you'd done a marathon. But the closer you looked, the more you could see her age in certain areas. We had an inside cabin right at the front of the ship. Because of this, we felt a lot more movement during rough seas, but that's to be expected. Being positioned underneath the Palladium, you could hear and feel the bass from the shows, but we were never in the room during these times, so it wasn't an issue. Do be aware though, that during early morning docking into port, you could hear a lot of mechanical noise in this location. It sounded like the winch for the ship's ropes was fastened to our headboard. We found the room to have lots of storage and felt surprisingly roomy when the beds were set up as twins. However, when we asked for it to be converted to a double, the room felt instantly tighter and was harder to walk around the bed. Another clue to the age of the ship is the dated basic TV here. Don't be expecting any interactivity or on-demand movies, and plug sockets are severely lacking in these rooms. We could look past the tired, dated cabin furniture. It was functional and did the job. The biggest issue though was the bathroom. Again, we could excuse the brown decor and even the shower curtain, because the shower tray was big enough that it didn't cling to you in that annoying fashion. But the sink enamel was peeling, and even though it was clean, it didn't feel clean. It just needed more love, proper maintenance, and not just cleaning. The rest of the ship has a mix of old and new. Some areas look beautifully refreshed, and others haven't been touched in decades. Simple fixes could have made a huge difference, like swapping out those grubby old sun lounger cushion covers for fresh ones. We definitely wouldn't be relaxing on those in our Speedos. Having said that, there were only 2 hot tubs for the whole ship, which just isn't enough for the number of guests on board, so there was no need for our Speedos after all. Being a cold weather cruise, we didn't get a chance to make use of the pool or outdoor deck areas on Ambience, and the outdoor bar at the aft of the ship was closed. That being said, the deck spaces were large, with plenty of space to walk and take in those views. Having sailed exclusively on newer ships previously, we were a bit taken aback by how low those handrails were on the top deck. Health and safety was obviously very different back in 1991, but it did allow for uninterrupted views rather than views obstructed by glass. However, look closely again and the age of the ship certainly continues to show itself. Back inside, the corridor spaces continue that tired theme, and the jarring mix of carpet designs was certainly a choice. The bar areas, however, like the Botanical Lounge with its upmarket, modern gin and cocktail bar aesthetic, live music and laid-back vibes, or the Art Deco inspired glamour of Raffles Bar, both perfect for pre-dinner drinks, as well as Centre Court and the panoramic observation lounge that doubles as the evening nightclub, were genuinely lovely spaces. If the whole ship had been decorated like these, our overall impressions would have been a lot different. So, having lived on board for a week, did we like being on a 34-year-old ship? Surprisingly, yes. The size and the atmosphere really won us over, and we actually really enjoyed the intimacy. Yes, the age of the ship is noticeable in places. Yes, she has a bit of a smell in some areas, and some cabins, especially the bathrooms, absolutely need attention, but the ship has charm. However, would we sail Ambassador again? We had the premium drinks package on this sailing, known as the Expedition Package, which on paper is really good value. but a lot of the drinks were fine. Not terrible, but not exciting either. Cocktails in particular didn't really hit the mark, feeling fairly watery and sometimes lacking flavour, and their wine selection felt on the cheap, low quality side. The benefit of this is that outside of the drinks package, bar prices are fairly low, but we still felt like we got our money's worth. We did think it a little strange that this Ambassador gin was only available to purchase by the bottle and not by the glass. Seems like a missed opportunity. We wanted to give it a try in the bars before potentially buying a bottle, but couldn't. At the end of a night out, a big annoyance for us was the seeming lack of available free drinking water around the ship. There were refill stations in and near to the buffet, but not near your cabins, and yes, you could get small glasses of water from the bars, but bottled water wasn't available in any of the drinks packages, which felt like an odd exclusion. Located on deck 7, the Buckingham restaurant is the main dining room on board. It's a large, open and bright space, but dining was where things really depended on personal preference. Ambassador has set dining times and assigned tables. You don't get to choose your seating arrangements,
Which means for your evening meal, you're placed with the same group for the whole cruise. Now, luckily, we had a lovely group, so it wasn't a problem.
But would that always be the case?
and for breakfast and lunch, you're sat on shared tables as you arrive, meaning it's a different group every time. As vloggers, and honestly, people who just like a bit of privacy, we did miss having the flexibility of tables for two. The food itself was okay. Some meals were decent, others were very average. Nothing terrible and nothing spectacular. The same could be said of the buffet food in the Borough Market. We found the choice there to be fairly limited, but we liked that the food was served to you rather than self-serve. Located in Borough Market is Saffron, the upcharge Indian restaurant. During the day, it doubles as seating for the buffet, but by night, the curtains are drawn to differentiate it from the main space. The curtains didn't feel like it differentiated the food though. At just under £20 per person, although the overall experience was nice and the service was great, the food didn't feel elevated enough from what could have been served at the buffet, and we wouldn't necessarily return. Our biggest issue with the food on board was definitely the lack of available included food past 9 PM in the evening. There's no late night buffet on Ambassador. Your only options are to pay for room service or wait until 11 PM in the nightclub and then awkwardly hang around the canapé trays like Oliver asking for some more. The dining room and buffet teams were friendly and polite, and we loved how involved our server got in the Baked Alaska parade. We would say that the main dining room experience sometimes felt a little rushed, like you could really feel the time pressure they were under. However, the staff were always polite and friendly. Across the ship, the bar staff felt overstretched. There just wasn't enough members of staff to deal with a busy bar. The bar areas operated table service, which on the face of it is great, but the same staff members were taking orders as delivering drinks, which meant we were often made to feel like we were inconveniencing them by stopping them to take an order. That's why in our vlog series, you'll have often seen us with 2 drinks each on the table. It had taken so long to get served that we ended up double ordering to save going through it again. Table service also created a strange situation if you wanted to grab a drink to go but didn't have a table to sit at. You just had to awkwardly hang around at the bar until someone begrudgingly served you.
Which brings us on to our experience in the Botanical Lounge, which we alluded to earlier in the series.
Yes.
Now then, I was not a happy bunny, was I? Basically what happened is we followed the rules, we went and sat down and ordered our drinks at the table, because some people were going up to the bar and ordering them, and you could tell the waiting staff were getting annoyed at that.
Yes, and as I've said before in the voiceover, it takes a little time to order drinks anyway.
Yes. So we ordered the drinks, I saw them getting made, I saw them go onto the counter, the bartender then continued to make drinks. In the time it took the waiter to come back, some new drinks would be put on the counter, and the waiter took those drinks and left ours behind. And basically that continued a few times where new drinks were getting made, put up, the waiters would take those, and ours were just
Left there. I would say probably 3 or 4 cycles of drinks being made and ours were still sat there.
Yes, and then I got excited because the drinks got put onto a tray with other drinks. The waiter took them over to a table, got rid of some of the drinks, went to put our drinks on this table, and like, oh, they're not ours. So took them back to the bar, took them off the tray, and then went
Yeah.
off somewhere.
Instead of trying to find out whose the drinks were, just gave up with them and put them back on the bar.
Put them back on the bar, and then I think he went to fold some napkins or something.
He
It's like,
did.
well, that's not my problem anymore. So I was enraged. All in all, it took us about half an hour.
Yeah.
And it was only when I finally went up to the bar and was like, can I get these? These are ours. We've been waiting about half an hour, that we took them and then left in a huff.
He just basically grunted at you, didn't he? He didn't.
Yeah, it was quite rude. So I was not impressed with that experience.
Did we have some lovely staff moments? Absolutely. But overall, bar staff didn't feel as warm and relaxed as we'd experienced on other lines. We spoke to frequent Ambassador cruisers on board who'd noticed that the service wasn't up to the usual standard. Staff members weren't in their usual uniform, instead wearing the Cruising with Jane and Friends t-shirts. A lovely touch, but could that have created a non-uniform day at school vibe where they'd taken their foot off the gas? Located across decks 7 and 8, the Palladium is an impressive double-height performance venue. The size of this theatre, given the size of the ship, is outstanding, with ample comfortable seating, drinks serviced straight to your seat, and with most seats having a table for your drink. A great place to sit back and enjoy the entertainment. An obvious highlight of this cruise for us was the incredible opportunity we got to meet and chat to Jane McDonald. Jane, if you're watching, we wanted to extend a huge thank you to you for your time. Your kindness and warmth was just what we needed after those rocky days at sea. And thank you also to the wonderful team member who organised the backstage meetup for us. We won't mention your name to avoid you being bombarded with requests on future sailings, and just to set expectations for anyone watching, meeting Jane isn't normal on these cruises. She's always accompanied by security, so it's not like you'll bump into her casually around the ship or sit and have a drink with her. She's too busy putting on fabulous entertainment. We can't really judge Ambassador's usual entertainment based on this sailing, because the regular team weren't performing. They were essentially seat ushers for the week, helping organise the queues for the shows. Everything on stage was organised by the events team running the Jane McDonald sailing. With that in mind, the shows and musical acts around the ship were fantastic. Jane, of course, was phenomenal. Mary Mac, the sailing's resident drag queen, was hilarious and warm and really brought the house down. We talked more about it in the series and we won't dwell on it too much here, but we did feel that Bobby Davro was a strange choice for this particular cruise. His material felt outdated and a bit problematic. But John Owen Jones was absolutely outstanding, and Richie Anderson did a great job leading daytime activities. On the whole, daytime entertainment was fairly light, mainly trivia, but that made sense. On a fairly port-intensive itinerary like this, most people were off exploring during the day anyway, and when we did have our unexpected extra sea day due to bad weather, the team were quick to put on extra entertainment. One of the biggest surprises of this cruise was just how much we enjoyed the itinerary. Copenhagen, Gothenburg and Oslo were all genuinely lovely stops, with each one ending up being an unexpected highlight of the trip. In Copenhagen, we made a beeline for Tivoli Gardens, which was such a fun and charming place to explore. But we wouldn't recommend booking this excursion through Ambassador. It was extremely expensive for what was included, and we still had to buy additional ride passes once inside to go on the roller coasters. We go into more detail about this in our series, but in short, Tivoli is wonderful, but just book it independently. Gothenburg really impressed us. It's a fantastic weekend break city, easy to get around, full of character, and somewhere we'd happily return to for a dedicated city trip. And then Oslo, which was just beautiful, clean, scenic and packed with interesting sights. It was one of those places where the few hours you have on a cruise stop just didn't feel long enough, especially as this was a very short day here with only 4 hours in port. Overall, we absolutely loved this itinerary, each port offering something different and memorable, and it really elevated the whole trip for us. When it came time to leave the ship, we faced a bit of a challenge. If you choose the standard disembarkation option, you put your luggage out the night before and then have to wait for your assigned time to leave the ship on disembarkation day, which in our case was 11:30. The catch is, you have to leave your cabin by 7:30, leaving you with potentially several hours of hanging around at the end of your holiday, which could be a bit draining. We opted for self-disembarkation, which meant we still had to leave our cabin at 7:30, but at least we could get off the ship as soon as they were ready, taking our luggage with us. This worked well for us, minus that early start.
So, would we sail on an older ship again? I think we would.
Absolutely.
In fact, we've got 2 more sailings on older ships already in the diary.
We don't need the sort of gimmicks and the water slides of a brand new modern ship. And it was actually really lovely to see an older ship still in use and not being scrapped.
As for whether we'd sail Ambassador again, well, that depends. We wouldn't rush back, but we wouldn't completely rule it out. There are things we genuinely enjoyed. The smaller size, the atmosphere, and we'd be interested to see what the Ambassador entertainment team usually do. But the shared tables, the hit and miss food, and the tired cabin details would make us think twice unless the itinerary and the price were spot on. Jane and the team are cruising again in October 2026, and if they'd have chartered a different ship, we'd have been there in a heartbeat. However, it's back on Ambience again, and as it stands, we had a great week and we're glad we tried it. But we've done that ship now, so it's on to the next adventure. In the end, what we truly adore about cruising is the sheer variety and endless possibilities it offers. We once considered ourselves non-cruisers, but discovering Virgin Voyages opened our eyes to a whole new world at sea. Since then, we've embraced different cruise lines and itineraries, and with each journey, our love for the ocean grows stronger. Even when certain aspects don't quite match our tastes, be it the food or the ship's design, it never diminishes our joy. After all, being at sea is a unique experience that always brings happiness. We cherish the fact that cruising has something for everyone, and while not every cruise may be perfect for us, it might be perfect for someone else. And that's the beauty of it. The journey, the discovery, and the unwavering joy of being at sea.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed coming along for this review. We've enjoyed having you. If you have enjoyed it, please give it a like and subscribe if you're new here. It really helps us out.
Yes, and as we mentioned at the start of this video, if you've not watched the full series, here's a link to the playlist. If you've already watched that, here's a link to a video that YouTube thinks you might like. We'll see you over there if you choose to watch. If not,
We'll see you on the next adventure.
bye!
Bye!